The biggest reason I was excited to return to the world of Misfit of Demon King Academy was for our boy right here, Anos. I mean, there's not many characters who've been killing characters, not just characters, mind you, gods, for as long as him, that in the middle of a classroom where you're exposing the truth of his world, Anos can say, listen, you can threaten me all you want, but before you even finish that sentence, I'm gonna casually kill you, bring you back just a little bit of power, because if I do let you fully die, well, you're gonna be gone for good and the world will end. So instead of that, I'm gonna make you serve as a teacher for life, which is probably the worst punishment you could give someone. I mean, these kids don't listen, these kids are sassy, you're probably underpaid, you're basically being forced at gunpoint. Like, Anos is a cruel mofo if you get on his bad side, but I mean, following him as an anime protagonist is always a blessing. Now, I do got a full live reaction to today's episode available on the Patreon if you're interested, so consider supporting if you want to see that, but let's talk about this one. I've been excited. I mean, it's been a hot minute. It's been like, what, 2.5 years, almost 3 years since the last season, and the fact that it just, like, obviously I'm fuzzy on details. I haven't watched it since it last aired, but they did a good job at reminding me of some key moments, some key characters, and to just throw us into the thick of it, you know, once again, starting way back in the day, showing where he was before that whole ritual, making it look like he was killed by the hero because he was a bad person, and we get the full context. And the fact that they're giving us that hook now of saying there's this like special godchild that's going to be tasked at killing him, and he's talking like, well, let's get him on our side first before that ever gets to the... Because they're basically establishing this is a character that actually could defeat him, and then they easily and just so casually reveal that actually he's probably... This child's probably already a part of his companions. And I'm like, this show is just so good at rapid firing like so many ideas I've seen before, and the thing that always sold me on this show was just the fact that Anos is such a beast. Now, there is one big difference that people might notice, and I feel like it's going to be a three-way split. There is actually a VA change for our boy Anos. I feel like 1/3 of the population here is going to be like, I didn't even know there was a VA change just because it's been so long since they last heard this anime. 1/3 is going to be like, yep, I noticed the change and I disliked it. And then there's probably going to be a third being like, I was completely fine with it. I was on the side of I was completely fine with it. I think there's definitely a difference in the way, so this is a very talented voice actor who's now voicing him. Both have been talented voice actors, but when you cheat on, I think it was Lisa, who is such a relevant figure in the anime industry, you do tend to get blacklisted, I'm not gonna lie. But the fact of the matter was, the way his new VA performs things is he is so dead serious and confident, and there's that level of respect that comes from this man's vocal performance. So in the moments of funny, where he's saying something that generally makes the audience laugh, having someone like that just say his lines in such a dead-ass serious way, it's still very funny. But the thing that I noticed that I very much enjoyed was that in the moments of him trying to have authority, I actually was like, damn, like this shit is kind of giving me a little bit of chills there. So do I prefer one over the other? No, I think both can serve the role of Anos just as well. In a perfect world, would I have changed this VA? No, because I would like to keep things consistent, but it's not like we got downgraded in the way of like we go from One Punch Man season 1 to One Punch Man season 2, right? Change, you might be able to say, but I thought he does quite well, and I still felt like I got that authority, that badassery, but most importantly, he still was making me laugh, which is one of the most important things that sold me on Misfit, is that I really walked into season 1 expecting nothing, but I had people just hammering me like, you gotta talk about it. And it went from a show that I was like, I've seen all these cliches before, into something I was like, okay, yeah, there's some predictable elements, it may not be the deepest show on the planet, but it does twist the formula on its head enough that makes me excited. And I mean, this is the first episode, right? I think season 1 had 13 episodes, so we're at episode 14 at this point. This episode shows us casually killing a god. I mean, the first moment in this episode is actually killing a god in terms of like back in the day. So we kill a couple of gods, we have multiple students almost strangled to death, we have poison, we have this whole romance plotline, which in the middle of my reaction, I was actually like, hey, you know, I wonder how far they'll go into this romance. And then a minute, 2 minutes later, we see her get stabbed through the chest. Is she actually going to die there? I don't know. But I mean, this episode wasn't playing around. There's kidnapping, there's murder, there's sabotage. We're exposing the truth of the world and the kids aren't having any of it. I mean, how many of those students are going home that night being like, Dad, they're trying to tell me about these gods and how this kid in my class is actually the Demon King. They're pulling these kids out of that school lickety-split, man. It'd be like coming home from Catholic school with your super religious family and trying to say that they tried to teach you that God wasn't real. Like, they wouldn't be having any of that. I mean, I just love talking about this one. I really think the highest points of season 1 were great, and I think the lowest points of season 1 were good. It was just a very consistent first season, and what do I expect and hope from season 2? Honestly, more of the same, just more of these moments. Like, I think, had we not had the moment of Anos, like, just in the middle of him having this conversation, just charging and being like, you think I'm so scared that I wouldn't kill you? No, I'm gonna bring you back to 10%. If we didn't have a moment like that in this first episode, that's what would have been missing. But you have the slower stuff, you have the character stuff, you have kind of everything that made the first season what it was. Maybe it wasn't quite as funny as some of the previous episodes, but I think given the setup and the bloodshed of this episode, I don't think there was much more room for jokes unless you added a few more minutes to the runtime. So for me, I think this did a great job of hooking us back in, and I think it was easy to adjust to the changes. Some people might disagree with that, and obviously that'll be personal preference, but was I impressed? Yes. Am I right back into the swing of things with this show? Absolutely. Thinking about like what I might want to see from this season other than just more of the same, might actually be like I hope to see more of the past, because they did a good job, I think, in the prior season, and they even set up this first episode showing us more about what happened before everything occurred, right? So I'm interested to see if maybe they'll delve into those flashbacks more than him just saying it or a character just saying it. I think that would go a long way, but does it need to happen next episode? No, but I wouldn't mind before ending the season if we got something like that, but that's just me. As I was watching this show, I was remembering things as I went. I was like, oh shit, I remember these characters. What did they do again? Oh yeah, they were from this battle, or these characters did this. It's easy to forget things when you watch dozens of shows a season and it's been a couple of years since the last time you saw these characters. But how easily it hooked me back in, made me say, I remember why I love this boy, and just remembering those key moments. And yeah, there's some more cliche predictable elements with some of the character archetypes in terms of how they latch onto our boy, but Misfit of Demon King Academy never lets things feel cliche. There may be elements that are a little less developed than other areas, but this show knows what it's doing overall, and I mean, this was a great return in my opinion and has me very excited for the future of this one. I'm sure there's going to be bound to be people being like, oh shit, I didn't even know this was getting a second season. It happens every time I cover season 2s of things that have been gone for a couple of years. I'll have people be like, I've been waiting for this one. It's one of my most anticipated. And I'll have dozens of people be like, holy shit, this one came back. I love the first season. And that's what I like about these kind of like surprise returns, because I wasn't necessarily expecting a season 2, even though these types of shows do well. I figured since we didn't hear anything for a little bit, I was like, maybe we won't. Or maybe I just completely avoided information somehow. But this one kind of surprised me. I think it was last year when I heard about this one coming out. And I mean, it immediately, I was like, oh shit, that's the show with Anos. And like, that's the thing that was in my mind. When you can have a main character that you can not think about a show for a couple of years, almost 3 years, but as soon as you hear the name, you remember its lead character and you're just like, oh yeah, I remember really enjoying that one. That's the type of anime that stick with you. They may not end up being your favorite anime of all time, but it's hard not to say you have a damn fun time watching them, and that's exactly what I had. But thoughts and feelings yourself on this first episode. What did you think? What did you think of the VA change? Did you even notice it? I'm sure some people would be like, I didn't even notice until you told me, but do let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Like I mentioned, full live reaction is available on the Patreon. You can also get video shoutouts, so do consider that if you so wish. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.